And again, we're like, we don't know what we're testing for. We don't know what this special tester is, not up to this point. But they decided in that moment to say, by the way, here's what you're testing for. You are going to guard the president of the United States. That's the importance of my story, is that I didn't want to do art. I didn't want to do music. And I think, again, that's what sets the nonprofit apart.
Yeah.
But man, I used to doodle a lot because I was like, I got 22nd in my class, which sounds good until you know the actual number.
22nd in my class.
But part of that was intentional because I knew I was joining the Marine Corps. Well, I didn't know at first. I knew I was joining the military.
Yeah.
My dad's one of 11, Army, Navy, Air Force, nobody Marine Corps, but like all of his brothers served in some form of fashion. My 3 older siblings never even made it out of high school. They went to drugs, alcohol, never graduated. I was the youngest of 4. Oh, wow. And so I grew up around that. And I was just like, so 2 main reasons I was going to the military. One, because it was a family history of it. And I just had this sense of, I want to serve the way that my dad did. And I just read all about it. And so at very young age, probably 7 or 8, I said, you know what? They all drink or do drugs. I'm not going to drink ever. And to this day, I've never even tasted alcohol, which is probably the only Marine you'll ever meet that's never even tasted it.
Really?
Yeah, never tasted beer. I don't know what beer tastes like.
Wow.
But it was intentional because I knew I had to get out of that town. But in 2000, so I graduated high school in 2003, but I still didn't know. It was probably 2001 when I decided I was going Marine Corps. Yeah. Like that's when I was kind of up in the air of going through high school, just being like, I had this Army recruiter, this Marine Corps recruiter. And I was like, I want to probably be a Marine because I just, the few, the proud, all that. And then 9/11 happened, and that's when I just said, I'm going to be a Marine. I'm just going to go in, infantry, Marine, first person overseas. I was 17 at the time when I decided that, and I went to my mom and said, I'm going to go sign up to be a Marine. And she's like, no, you're not. We're not going to sign the papers for you. I said, well, they have this thing called the DEP program, right?
Yeah, the delayed entry program.
Delayed entry program. And I was like, so if you sign now when I'm 17, I'll do a whole year with that training me before they go off to war so that I can be more prepared. Or you don't sign it, I'm just going to sign it when I'm 18 and go not knowing anything. And so they thought it'd be smarter to let me sign at 17 so that I would get training for it.
You swindled them, man.
Yeah. So they signed it. I was in the DEP program doing all the little, like, every once in a while, whatever weekends, running mock PFTs and stuff and learning more about the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
And then when I graduated in high school in 2003, 2 weeks later, I was on a plane going to MCRD, San Diego. So I get there, and it's so funny in boot camp. You hear all these horror stories and everything. In the first week, I didn't know. The only thing I was never told was like how that whole first week in transition.
Oh, the worst.
Here's another story. I may be one of the only Marines you ever met who's never stood on the yellow footprints.
Really?
So our flight got so delayed that we got into LA or to San Diego at probably like 2 a.m. because we were supposed to be there earlier than that.
Yeah.
We get there at 2 a.m. and it's receiving day. And so you imagine the drill instructors and the people who've been there yelling at young Marines all day long. So like we have a little van pick us up, only 6 of us. We drive to the MCRD San Diego. We get off. Nobody comes in and yells at us on the van. They're like, hey, just get off the van. Go to the receiving. And so we go. And I remember walking by these yellow footprints being like, I think I'm supposed to stand here. Like in my head, I'm like.
Yeah, like, well, wait a second.
We walk right past them and into receiving. And everyone's like, they're too tired to be angry too. You could tell they're frustrated. They're like, no, just go get your stuff over there. Go. Like, just get it. It wasn't like, I was like, this is going to be not too bad.
That was a really bad false sense of security probably though.
Yeah. See but you also have that little week of receiving where you don't do a ton. You're trying to be placed into your platoon and find your drill instructors. Yeah. And again, that week was relatively easy, still kind of scary, but relatively easy.
Yeah.
And then when you get placed, man, it's like all hell breaks loose.
Yeah.
And so the one thing that someone told me, an older Marine in my small town, was like, hey, just don't be noticed. I'm like, that's the big thing is fly under the radar. People are going to want you to be a squad leader. People are going to want you to be, they're going to promote, like say, do it, don't do it.
Yeah.
I was like, that was the best information I ever heard.
That's what I did. I tried to hide under the radar, but I ended up getting picked to do things later on. And I was like, I don't want to do this, but it ended up working out anyway. But So you tried to be under the radar while you were there?
I tried to, but within I can't remember truly, but about 1 week to 2 weeks in, when we're always getting haze and stuff, they come out with this sheet and they say, I have a list of special testers. Now, here's what's funny about that, because I remember in high school when I told you I knew I was going to the Marine Corps. So every time we got a state standardized test that we're supposed to do or whatever, I would just C straight down the middle, as fast as I could, because I didn't think I was going to college. None of my family went to college. I'm going to Marine Corps for life. I was like, who needs this? Who needs this? Who needs this?
You just say C's the whole way,
all the way down.
So they probably thought you were on the spectrum.
When they came in and said I was a special tester, I legit was like, oh crap, I should have tried harder. I was like, there's probably all the special Marines. They give a helmet and crayons and say go there. That was legitimately my first thought when they said special testers. But they had 15 to 20 names on there of other recruits. And then when we came out, every other platoon had 15 to 20 Marines just randomly selected. So when you go there, I'm not good at math, but it was probably between 100 and 200 Marines when we first started that first phase of special testing. We would go and we'd sit down with a clinician, psychiatrist person, and you're kind of being sent to these rooms. They're like, do you talk in your sleep? Does your family travel out of the country? All these weird questions you just answer them. Yeah. And then you go right back to normal boot camp. Nothing happened. A few weeks later go by, all of a sudden, hey, special testers, but there's less of us. Every single time there's less and less Marines. And then I was in the Marine Corps when they were transitioning. I'm not sure if they still do it. Was your boot camp 4 weeks MCRD, 4 weeks SOI, or 4 weeks Camp Pendleton, 4 weeks back MCRD, or was your 6 weeks, 4 weeks, 2 weeks?
No, so I went to Parris Island. So ours was just 13 weeks on Parris Island straight.
Oh, okay. So when I was in MCRD, right before we got there, it was 6 weeks and then two weeks and then the other 2 weeks or whatever. And that was because when we did the Crucible, because we had to go all the way up. When we went up the mountains, it was a little bit harder. Your guys' was tougher on the mental because the fleas and all the other swamps. Ours was on the strength because we'd have so many people roll their ankles, hurt themselves because we're going up those generous mountains and rocks.
Reaper and stuff.
So they were actually having an issue with Marines getting their Eagle Globe and Anchor 2 weeks before graduating, and then all of a sudden they can't go to the fleet because they were injured. So they were still recovering from the Crucible.
Oh, wow.
So they decided with us to try out 4 weeks in MCRD, 4 weeks in Camp Pendleton where we did the Crucible, and then we'd have 4 weeks back to do the rest of it. So we got our Eagle Globe and Anchor halfway through because of that, but I think they changed it back afterwards.
Yeah, they probably did.
But when I was doing that, I feel so bad for my dude who was with me. I don't remember who it was, but it's when they split us off to do fire holes, or what do you call it? Freaking when you're just digging foxholes. When you're digging 2-man foxholes, we're supposed to do a thing where you cut it out, 2-man foxhole, make the grenade slump, all the stuff where you're
in recruit training.
Yeah, it was when we went to San Diego. We had to do that in a training thing, and so because I remember when I was up there, I'm almost certain, unless the special testing, it's been so long ago.
Yeah.
No, the special testing didn't go through SOI, so it had to be then.
Okay.
Because I remember when I was up there, we were digging something, or we're digging the hole we just started, and they came up the hill. And they're like, hey, Rich or Casper, you have to go back for the testing. And I was like, I'm sorry. Because they said,
I'm sorry.
He had to dig out the entire thing.
Oh, man.
So I went back down the mountain. But this is by the time that there's only 20 of us left.
Yeah, okay.
And so they gathered 20 of us, and they said, you guys are now going to do interviews, mock interviews, like you do in the Marine Corps when you have to go up and you have to stand 6 inches from the desk and be like, Sergeant Major or whatever when they're briefing you. And I don't even think at boot camp they've taught us that to this point. They just said, hey, what's going to happen? You're going to walk through these doors. There's going to be either a gunny or a first sergeant on the other side of it. And again, we're like, we don't know what we're testing for. We don't know what this special tester is, not up to this point. But they decided in that moment to say, by the way, here's what you're testing for. You are going to guard the President of the United States, either at White House Communications or Camp David.
That was the whole reason why you were called special testers?
Yeah, because they were going through, the one test I tried on was the ASVAB. And so that's where, because you have to have a certain GT score. It has to be at least 110, I think, in the technical something area.
Yeah, probably the GT score.
You had to have above physical fitness standards. So we're 1% of the Marine Corps kind of makes it to that stage. And I was like, this is the exact opposite of what I thought. But also, this is a horrible time to tell me.
Also, this is a terrible, not good timing.
We're already afraid of any rank above us even. And that's the one unique thing about the Marine Corps that people probably don't know who don't. Army, they'll probably talk to 8 ranks above them, just be like, yo, what up, dude?
Yeah.
I feel like, it's not that exaggeration, but
yeah.
In the Marine Corps, all the way up until you make E4, even then sometimes you're afraid to talk to the next level up. There's just this sense of I'm not going to talk, or I'm afraid that something's going to happen.
Or I'm going to jack something up when I'm talking to
So
them.
now, and you get punished for it. It's not like the bro thing. It's legitimately fraternizing. And they push that in the infantry. So I'm like, I'm a recruit, and I'm about to go talk to this gunnery sergeant or this first sergeant. And I'm glad I got the gunny. The first sergeant who came out, he actually ended up, which is crazy, he ended up being the first sergeant at Camp David later on.
No kidding.
But he even came out of the room. He's like, you guys are lucky you in that room, because I would have never let any of you in. And I was like, I believe him, honestly. But I went to this gunny, and I was so nervous. I was like, I want this now. This sounds cool.
Yeah.
And so I ended up getting it. I think only like 14 of us got it or something like that. And I got selected for it. But the issue was, I went in the Marine Corps boot camp June 9th of 2003. So 3 months after that, I'm now going to SOI for 2 months. And right there, they just had us alphabetical, like most of the time.
June of 2003
is when I went into the Marine Corps.
Okay, so that was the same year we invaded Iraq.
That's what we knew. Yeah. That's where we knew it was going down.
Yeah.
So 3 months after that, I'm going to SOI, and I start training up, and we know we're like, everyone there is like, we're going to war. We're going to be the first boots, pretty much, like the first new guys in combat on line companies.
Yeah.
And so my last name's Casper, like the ghost, no relation.
The way you said it, like the ghost, no relation.
I get it a lot. You related?
I'm sure.
But I had like Cherry was right here, because it was all alphabetical in SOI. So I had Cherry here. He was the youngest guy in the Marine Corps at the time, because I remember when so now it's like around November time, it was Marine Corps ball. So they actually pulled Cherry from SOI to be the youngest guy in the Marine Corps to cut the cake alongside the oldest, whatever the ceremony.
And this is
still
SOI.
Still at the School of Infantry while we're training. So I remember Cherry had to get pulled to do that. He was the youngest guy in the Marine Corps at the time. And then I had Horn down here, Longoria, I'm 6'5". Longoria was probably like 4'11". He had to get a waiver to get in. I don't think he was really that little, but he was tidy. We became really good friends throughout the time. I have a bunch of photos of me next to him. I still actually remember one time when we were in this big auditorium, and they're like, "Who's the tallest guy? Stand up in here." And I stood up, and they're like, "Who's the shortest guy?" And he happened to be right next to me, and he stood up, and he's like, "Now how tall are you going to be when someone starts firing shots at you?" And I was like, I just pointed at him. Everyone laughed. I pointed at him. Everyone laughed. But like Cherry, Longoria, I think Cartwright, and all these people. And then, so they all end up going to the line companies. But since I got Presidential Guard, they were like, no, you're going over here now. Yeah. You're going up to Chesapeake, Virginia for security first school. You're going to D.C. till your clearance goes through. Then you're going to choose where you want to go. So as they go to their companies, and I was supposed to, I was actually on the list to go to 2-3, I think it was, with the rest of them, because they're in blocks.
They were going to 2-3?
They were just like, A's through H's, you're going to 2-3. This through this, you're going to here.
That's crazy. And, I went to 2-3.
But they just sent us in blocks because it was wartime. So it was no like picking and choosing who goes where. It was just like A's through H's, you're going to this one, whatever.
Yeah.
So I was supposed to be on there until someone complained and said, no, we're supposed to go up to Camp David, or we're supposed to go to D.C. So I ended up going there. They go off to war, and one by one, I'm like, oh, Longoria died. Oh, Cherry died. Oh, Jesus. And I'm just like sitting here like, holy crap, like, is my whole class going to die? And so I had survivor guilt before I knew what survivor guilt was, because I kept thinking, like, why would God put me here when all my friends had to go there? Like, there's got to be a reason why I'm here. But I still felt like a piece of for not being there.
Yeah.
So I still go through the 2 months of security force school before I get to DC, and I start doing. The thing about DC too is it doesn't, even though you got selected for the Yankee White program, which is Guardian President, doesn't mean you're going to get it. So you could still go through the FBI check, because they actually send people to your house and do all this stuff just to make sure you are who you're supposed to be, and that you didn't swindle them in some way.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm sitting here looking at my background, like, all my siblings, even my sister, have been to prison, jail, poor family. They probably think we'll be enticed by money. Like, it's probably not good.
It's like the hardest security clearance they can ever
legitimately thought that I was not going to get it, because we had some people who were there lifetime. Like, they were just in D.C. until they couldn't be in the Marine Corps anymore, because their clearance just never went through. They kind of stayed in limbo. And so I was afraid I wasn't going to get it, but 11 months later, they ended up calling my name. And so they said, they give you a choice, White House Communications, Camp David, and I'm a country boy. And so I was like, I want Camp David, because I just heard it was so much better.
Yeah.
So I chose Camp David, and I was up there for 14 months. And then that first sergeant, the same one that was, I'm pretty sure that was doing our interviews a long time ago, he told me that they had limited manpower up there. So if I wanted to stay, I could, because typically 14 months at camp, you can move on.
14 months at Camp David?
Yep. And then you'll just move on. Another class will come up, or it kind of cycles through. And they said, hey, we're actually in a weird spot. We need a few more bodies. If you want to stay, you can. And I was like, with all due respect, I was like, I didn't join the Marine Corps to go, and I'm not going to be a lifer anymore. At first, when I joined, I was like, for life. Now I'm like, not for life.
Yeah, not for life.
Because I already saw like what was happening there.
Yeah.
But I said, I cannot get out of the Marine Corps not serving the way I need to.
The way you wanted to.
Yeah, the way I wanted to. Yeah. So I'm like, send me out. So they sent me to Unit 27. So I was with 27.
Oh, in 29 Palms.
Yep, doing the workup with them.
What company?
27 Fox, and we started doing workup with them too. And we were about to do range 400 and everything when they're like, hey, by the way, Casper, you don't make our deployment. You get out in June of 2007, and we leave in January 2007. So you can't go with us because you'd be getting out when we're still there. And I didn't want to do a 4-year extension, but I just wanted to go. So I said, well, who are the next unit deploying? Like, send me the next people deploying. So they said, well, there's actually a unit. Me and my buddy Jeremy are the only two that volunteered. They volunteered like 16 other people, but me and my buddy Jeremy, who was at camp with me, were the only ones that volunteered because we're like, we need to get out of here. They said, tow platoon, which is a part of First Tanks, still in 29 Palms.
Yeah.
They're like, tow platoon just had a huge boot drop, but they have like 0 senior, like corporals and up. Like nobody with combat experience and no corporals and up besides like 2 people. And so they took 16 hardened war dogs, like people who were they just did Fallujah when the sugar factory blew up and lost 10 guys. Like they just got off that deployment. They forced them to go to first tows. And then me and my buddy Jeremy, who were like, let's go. Like we were excited about going. So we went over there with a brand new group of kids. And it was crazy because we went from pretty much training from ground infantry to mounted infantry. So even though it was tow platoon, we haven't shot a tow in Iraq, since Desert Storm or whatever. I don't even think we did it in the first push. So we were just mounted infantry at that point. So we didn't even have tows on our vehicles. We practiced with some tows, but we just had like the 50 cal Mark 19, all that.